they have properly fumbled the bag.
They literally have. Like, what?
I don't know what's going
They
on.
started off this season so strong, so strong.
It's so heartbreaking to see. But yeah, they started off so good, like on the strongest foot. And I think everyone was kind of like, yes, Ferrari are back. And then somehow they've just lost it.
Like, because their car is brilliant. So if you've got a really good car, he's like, well, we should be winning. And yes, why would we change anything on the car? Because it's not the car that's the issue. It's the way they work together. It's the way that they pull their strategies together. It's the fact that you're 13 races in and Charles isn't the lead driver. I remember he's just there to like defend for Max when he needs it, or give Max a tow when Max needs it, or provide a spare liver when Max needs it, you know?
Where do we even start with this? So, first of all, you get Seb signing up to Instagram out of nowhere. So then everyone's like, oh, he's retiring. And then people are like, just because he's like made an Instagram account doesn't mean that he's retiring. And then like several hours later, he announces his retirement in a really sweet way, can I just say. I thought it was such a cute video.
Did you? I thought it looked like he was being held hostage. Hi, welcome back to On the Chicane. You're here with me, Paris, and my co-host Mariam, and we are talking everything the Hungarian Grand Prix today. I think we'll also do a bit of a roundup of the first half of the season because we are 13 races in, and I think it's a good time to stop, take stock, look at where all the drivers are and all of the other happenings that are going on and off the track, and then just like talk about our opinions on everything as we always do. So yeah, let's get into it. Mariam, you had an interesting weekend because you were not like covering the race this weekend. You were doing other things. Anything interesting there?
I was covering a client of mine who was racing in a different series. Badass woman. She claimed pole in her class. It was just a long night. But yeah, it was good. I tried to keep up with the F1. The race that I was actually covering ended up finishing at the same time as the F1. So I kind of caught a little bit of the F1. Not too much. I've kind of just caught up a little bit on highlights. So I don't have the full gist of everything that happened, but I think enough to be able to record this video.
That is absolutely amazing. Like the endurance of the women to be working in the 24-hour spa and putting it on pole and doing really well. I love to hear that, to be honest.
Honestly, like it was just an incredible weekend for women, especially in that race. There was just I think 6 women out of like a ridiculous amount of drivers. I think it was literally like 6 out of like 200 and something.
Wow.
And 5 of them ended up on podiums. So, pretty amazing. Pretty good job.
Women are doing it this weekend. Yeah. But in Formula One, do you know who else was doing it this weekend? Mr. Saturday, Mr. George Russell.
Mr. Consistency, yeah.
The consistency, as he likes to call himself.
Yeah. Honestly, like I think that was another unexpected thing. Like at work, we were doing whatever we do, and all of a sudden it's like chaos. We've got to do this because he's just put it on pole, and we were just like amazing stuff. It keeps you busy when you work in the industry.
It was kind of unexpected at the very last second, right? Like because you had like Verstappen and Leclerc and Sainz was putting in some amazing things. Sainz was actually on provisional pole, and then Russell just came. And if you mirror that, when they showed the side-by-side comparison, there was honestly nothing in it. I don't even understand how he like managed to eke out that extra few seconds or extra few milliseconds and just push himself ahead. It was amazing.
I know. I remember seeing it and just being like, okay, Carlos has got this. Like Leclerc couldn't match up to his pace. And then literally out of nowhere, it's like he's done it. George Russell claimed pole, and you're like, what? How? Like it was bizarre, but amazing.
Yeah, I feel like
Very,
it's going to be the first of many. Like Mercedes have been pushing their car, and just also to mention the fact that Lewis was also putting in purple sectors. He was also doing so well this weekend. The only reason that he backed out of his flying lap that particular moment was because his DRS wouldn't open. So he was having an issue, and he didn't, manage to put it up there. But he would have probably, I would have said probably like beaten out George just because he's a better driver. But either way, it would have probably been a 1-2 for Merc, and that just made me so happy in itself.
yeah, it was just really impressive stuff from this entire weekend. They were just showing really good pace, and
Yeah,
I feel like I said before, I think it was on my on the episode with Steph last week, they just seemed to slowly, out of nowhere, just kind of crept their way back up there. And I can't remember who I saw, but I think it was earlier today or yesterday, someone said, guarantee Mercedes will come ahead of Ferrari in the championship.
yeah,
So
oh yeah, for sure in the constructors.
yeah. So I think it's yeah, we're just gonna have to see how it kind of works itself out, because we go international for the second half of the season. We're going to be in some really good tracks, some really boring tracks. Obviously Rush is off the calendar, but no one cares about that track anyway. So yeah, let's just
Is there
see.
any that you're particularly looking forward to?
Japan, I think I have a really bittersweet kind of relationship with the Japanese Grand Prix, just because like my first love when I became a fan of Formula One was Jules Bianchi straight away, and obviously that's where he had his accident. So like it's a really bittersweet track for me, but I do think it delivers really good racing. So I'm looking forward to that. And what else?
For me, it's definitely Singapore. Like I absolutely adore that race. Love a night race, love a street race. And that's been my favorite for years. If I can go to any, like my top track to go to would definitely be Singapore.
Yeah, I think I was going to say Singapore too. I think that would be a really interesting one. Um, just because I think Hamilton does have quite good success at Singapore. All I can think back to right now is Vettel winning at Singapore right now. But yeah, I know that Hamilton's done well as well. But yeah, it's going to be, I'm looking forward to it. The second half of the season should hopefully be really good.
I think it's going to be spicy. Like you said, like Merc are creeping forward every race. They have been diligently working so hard. Like you saw, obviously, at the beginning of the year, you had Lewis literally weighing his car down with sensors to try and get all the data. You had George just consistently putting it in top 5, and then now like not yesterday, sorry, it's not even, usually we record on Sunday or Monday, but on Saturday, like they were flying. On Sunday they were on pure pace up with the rest of the top cars. So I don't know, I'm just super happy, and I cannot wait to see what the second half of the season brings.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it as well, although I am a bit gutted because I will be missing the first 3 races back, but whatever. So yeah, anyway, George on pole. Then we had the race itself. Promise of a wet race, but there was no rain until, I think it was just drizzles, wasn't it? Up until like on the last lap, where people were just...
it was pretty damp in a sense. Like it was so, the kind of excitement that a wet race would bring never came. They just kept saying, oh, it's drizzling on turn 4, it's drizzling on turn 12, and it's like just very light, and no one was like changing tires or changing strategies because of it. I'd say the most that really happened is a lot of the runners, so some of them were started on mediums, and usually you have to use 2 tire compounds in the race, so then they would change maybe to the softs, or they would change to the hards to run long for the end of the race. But a lot of them decided quite early that it was going to be a 2-stop race, hopefully with rain. So they changed from mediums straight onto another set of mediums with the hopes that they would eventually go on to the intermediate wet tires, which didn't happen, but that made for some interesting tactics towards the end of the race, because you had, for example, Lewis Hamilton on softs coming up towards the end of the race, which was amazing, and netted him P2 at the end. So
yeah, it was a double Merc podium, second consecutive weekend. So this is what I mean. It's just like out of nowhere they've come, and they're just like, and I saw something on Twitter today actually about how at the beginning of the season, everyone was kind of calling for Hamilton to quit and saying his time is over, just because he was really focused on the team doing what they needed to do to analyze the car, get all the data they needed. And now that they've kind of managed to make some improvements, and he's putting in these solid lap times, and he's kind of creeping back up there, there's been a lot of silence from those people. So
silence the haters.
Yeah. I think it's a fair point. There was a lot of that at the beginning of the season. There was a lot of people saying Hamilton's done, he's washed, that end last year has just completely thrown him. And he's kind of just like, what are you guys talking about? I'm still here.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think we said in our predictions video from the very beginning of the season, until he gets that 8th, he's not going anywhere.
Oh, I really hope it comes soon.
We'll see what happens. But no, I think the Hungarian race, it was actually pretty interesting, because as much as there wasn't any rain, a lot of stuff did happen on track. You had Russell led the Grand Prix. I know we've just spoken about Merc doing really well and Russell doing really well, but he led the Grand Prix for quite a few laps. Then you had Leclerc on really dodgy strategies. Like, what is going on with Mariam? I need to ask you personally, have you had a word with these guys at Ferrari? Like, what is going on? Do you know what's happening there?
No. I don't want to talk about it. Okay, no, we need to talk about it. They have properly fumbled the bag.
They literally have. Like, what?
What's going
they
on?
Started off this season so strong.
It's so heartbreaking to see. But yeah, they started off so good, like on the strongest foot. And I think everyone was kind of like, yes, Ferrari are back. And then somehow they've just lost it. They keep screwing up on their strategies. And then you've got Matteo Binotto, who has been like speaking to news reporters and whatever, saying nothing needs to change at Ferrari. We don't need to do any upgrades. We don't need to do any work on our car.
That's why he was walking off in shame halfway through the Grand Prix. There was like a shot of him like walking off into the background, and the way it was framed was almost like him holding his head in shame and just walking off because he couldn't deal with it anymore.
I mean, fair enough, because see, it's difficult because Ferrari is one of those very cutthroat teams, a little bit like Red Bull, to be honest, in a way, where if you don't perform, you're out. And they did it with their last team principal, I want to say Domenicali. I'm pretty sure that was his name, Stefano Domenicali. Yeah. They got rid of him very quickly, without really giving him a chance. And then Binotto as well. He's not been in this position for very long. I think it's been, 3 years or something? And already you've got people saying he needs to be fired, he needs to leave. I think you need to give the team principals a bit of a chance, because at the end of the day, yeah, Binotto saying stupid things like we don't need to do any work on our car, but at the end of the day, they're not the car developers, they're not the engineers, they're the ones who kind of make overall decisions. But you kind of can't just, it's like,
I think the thing I struggle with is that Binotto is an engineer, but perhaps he's so much an engineer that he can't think about the bigger picture. He's so like, because their car is brilliant, so if you've got a really good car, he's like, well, we should be winning. And yes, why would we change anything on the car? Because it's not the car that's the issue. It's the way they work together. It's the way that they pull their strategies together. It's the fact that you're 13 races in and Charles isn't the lead driver. I remember us saying, I think it was around when Sainz won, that, you know, they, as regardless of how good Sainz is doing, they need to choose a number one driver. Like if Sainz is the number one driver, they need to choose him as the number one driver, because at the end of the day, they need to put their weight behind somebody and they need to favor somebody with their strategy. And when you've got them both kind of like battling each other, because they are as good as each other, you know, at the moment, and then unforced driver errors, you know, Charles going off a little bit, or not being able to kind of pull that car forwards, and then you've got the engine issues that they have. So there's so many little like moving parts that they need to think about, and there doesn't seem to be somebody in Ferrari that can sit there and think about all these moving parts and say, okay, well, in order for us to get from A to B, which is either like constructors championship or the drivers championship, this is what we need to do.
I think you're right. I think it's more so the way that the team works together. It seems like there's not enough gel there to kind of have them all on the same page. And there obviously does need to be some sort of internal reshuffle. I don't know if firing Binotto is the way forward, because he has brought the team up from where it was.
I don't think they need to fire him, to be honest.
But I do think something does need to change internally. And it's frustrating of the drivers as well. Like Leclerc's obviously gutted. Sainz is a bit like, you know, they're feeling a bit deflated. Something needs to happen. I mean, I know that like, so generally there's a rule where you're not allowed to work on the car for, I think it's about 2 weeks during summer shutdown. So until this 2 weeks is over, they can't really do any development on the car, but they need to kind of look at it and look at themselves as a team and kind of be like, okay, we need to, I don't know if it seems like they haven't got that winning mindset at the moment.
Which is crazy, because they're Ferrari. They're the literally like the most successful team in Formula One history. Like, honestly, I don't understand.
Yeah, but I think if you think about it, since they last were winning championships and whatever, can you imagine how many internal reshuffles they must have had just because of how they fell off? So they must be like trying to replace people and blah, blah, blah.
Plus, there's also the argument, like, if we're going to go conspiracy theory, but not even that much of a conspiracy theory, but before they used to have the FIA in their pocket, right? And now I think the playing field is more level or more skewed towards other teams, depending on which conspiracy theorist tribe that you're part of. And so now they actually have to earn their stripes. Like, they have to do shit properly. Like, you can't just be your, you know, Italian mafioso and push your way in. You don't have a Michael Schumacher at the helm. You don't have someone that's literally going to park their car in front of other people and be like, bitch, you can't get past me.
No, it's hard, and I feel sorry for the drivers, and I just hope that the summer break is a good time for them to kind of refocus and come back strong again, because 3 weeks into the second half, you've got their home race, and you know the Tifosi go crazy for that home race. I think it's probably one of the wildest races for like a fan base. So I think they really need to figure it out. And yeah, I feel really bad for the drivers at the moment, to be honest.
I think Charles in particular, like, really beats himself up. Like, I'm thinking about in France when he was getting out of the car and you just heard that like scream that he did, and you know, you can see that it really gets to him at the moment, because probably he knows in order to be a world champion, you can't still be making those mistakes. Like, if you really, really think about it, every single world champion goes through these mistakes. And that's what makes me think that he has that world championship mentality, or has that capability, but he might not just be there yet. Because if you take like Lewis Hamilton in the early years, he did kind of like crash into people, or he had that kind of like really brash nature. Verstappen, oh my days, like, he was called Crash Stappen for a reason, and he was terrible at just like how many mistakes he was making. I think Charles's mistakes is more like absent-minded mistakes. Like you
Yeah.
can see that he's just so sweet. I really love Charles, but like
Yeah.
he's just like he's a bit of a bimbo in a
Proper.
in a nice sense. Like I say that in the nicest, sweetest way possible. But I can just imagine his mind just going like absent for a second, and him like when he's supposed to be hitting one particular apex, he like loses it for a second, and then he just ends up a little bit to the side or something like that. And I think that's the kind of mistakes that he needs to like rid himself of. He needs that diligence. He needs to be like on it so much if he really wants to win a championship. It's not easy.
Yeah, no, it's not easy. Um, I think you're right. I think we are kind of seeing stupid things like that. It's heartbreaking. But we just got to see what they do for the second half of the season, right? We've got to see if they do refocus, do bring it back. And if not, then there's always next year.
I guess, yeah, there is. What else happened during the race? So, touching again on Ferrari's very bad strategy, they put Charles Leclerc onto hard tyres. After Kevin Magnussen had tried the hard tyres, Alonso and Ocon were on hard tyres, and the hard tyres just weren't grippy enough. They weren't soft enough to like give the cars the grip that it needed, and it just meant that they were losing time. They weren't able to mount defense or mount attack on other cars, and I think that also lost him a lot of positions because you had a lot of cars on the mediums, you had a lot of cars on the softs, and for example, Lewis Hamilton just zoomed past.
Yeah, seemed like it was definitely a game of tires and strategies this weekend. I feel like there's a lot of people that I've seen online who are losing faith in the Pirellis as well. But I feel like that's a whole nother conspiracy video for another time, because there's a lot that can be said about tire suppliers, right?
Yeah.
But
although I did like the days where you had two different tire suppliers, although that led to that very interesting race in 2005 in Texas, when only 6 cars started on the track because the other tire, I think it was, you had Bridgestone and Michelin, and Michelin was disqualified. Yeah. So that also leads to really interesting stuff. I always suggest going back and watching that race because it was crazy. But yeah, so in the end, Lewis Hamilton, who had been running on medium tires, changed to the soft tires quite late in the race and managed to get himself up to second. Max Verstappen, who had a really decent race. I really always just commend the Red Bull pit team and the Red Bull strategists, not Verstappen and not Horner themselves, but everybody around them. Yeah, no, Verstappen had a good race. He did.
To be fair, let's touch on that because both Perez and Verstappen started 10th and 11th.
Yes.
And obviously it was a massive shock to everyone, thinking, okay, well, they're starting really far down. This is a chance for Mercedes and Ferrari to kind of take it and run with it.
Yeah.
Obviously, Ferrari completely screwed that up. Mercedes did what they needed to do, but Verstappen flew through the field, managed to actually overtake and not cause any issues or collisions or anything, and actually managed to take pole, and in the end had a pretty, like you say, a solid race.
Yeah.
And it seemed a little bit too easy for him in a way.
I mean, the Red Bull car has the straight line speed, which means that when they're on a straight compared to somebody else, you saw it, I think, in who's was it Perez's qualifying lap or Verstappen's qualifying lap? I don't remember, but they did show it at one point. They were showing it on the screen, and they were showing a comparison, and you could just see that on the straights they were gaining like so much compared to the other car that they were comparing it against. So you know that like when they've got DRS and stuff and they're going past another car, it's like it's nothing for them. I think where the interesting part seems to be is, for some reason, Perez is like off the pace again. He's gone backwards. Like you said, Verstappen was flying through, whereas Perez, like, he was, I wouldn't say struggling, but like he was not as offensive as Verstappen was.
I think it's just he's obviously the one that they're trying all their tests and things on, and he is the guinea pig in this team. So I think I'm not expecting anything much from Perez, to be honest, because I think he's just going to continue being the little lab rat, and they're going to keep trialing different things on his cars. And whilst they're still trying to fix this whole flexi floor thing, like I just think there's no point in even having any expectations from Perez, because this is obviously Max's championship. Red Bull have a very clear driver as to who they're backing. Perez is just there to kind of take one for the team.
Yeah.
So
he's just there to like defend for Max when he needs it, or give Max a tow when Max needs it, or provide a spare liver when Max needs it, you know?
very well said.
So I don't know. Red Bull once again had a really good race. I cannot wait until the day where some of their strategists time contracts is up and they need to move to another team, because I'd like to see them in Ferrari or perhaps Mercedes. Would be great. Elsewhere on the grid, what else happened? Norris had a very good race. No, he had a very good qualifying. I think he qualified like 4th, and then that didn't translate in the race, because he ended up in 7th. So I would, well, it's not that much difference, but I would say that, you know, he's doing really, really well, and I think that was just a little bit lower than maybe he was expecting from him. Maybe 5th or 6th, but 7th is not too bad. I think it was the tires again, because I remember like Hamilton, Verstappen, Perez. So that's kind of like 3 people that ended up ahead of him.
It's just McLaren, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, this has been their season all throughout. Like, they've just they show promise, and then they somehow screw it up. Again, it's happened so many times this season I can't even count, but for Norris to finish in the points, then Ricciardo to finish like 15th, yeah, 15th, it's a joke.
Yeah, it's kind of laughable at this point. I think I need to check how he did in Renault and how he did in McLaren last year, but this is just a poor start from Ricciardo. What do you think it is? Because you can't say it's the car, because Norris does, you know, like get 4th in quali and, you know, 5th, 6th, 7th and stuff. It's just Ricciardo.
To an extent, I think it is the car, because I think he must also have like different setups and things that he's trying, because like McLaren, they're not even like the clear lead in the midfield at the moment. They're kind of like battling with Alpine for that position. So I think maybe Daniel Rick is like Perez, the guinea pig a little bit, and they're trying all the different things on his car, because there is no denying Daniel Ricciardo is a good driver. And once upon a time, he was definitely championship material. And Steph and I discussed this last week. Like, if he hadn't left Red Bull, if Red Bull hadn't been so like insistent on just backing Max, Daniel would have stood a really good chance of being a world champion. And he definitely has it in him. I just think for some reason, all the cards are kind of playing against him. And there was a lot of promise shown from McLaren, right, when he moved over, because they were ahead of everyone else in the field, and it looked like they were kind of on the rise, and it looked like the right place for Daniel to go. And then all of a sudden they've kind of just taken a step back, and they're not really doing that well.
And also when they are doing well, they're kind of more backing Norris than backing Daniel.
Yeah. And I think another thing is that, like, don't forget, we're only 13 races in with these new cars.
Mm.
So there is still a whole load of like, I mean, think about it. How many years did we race with the other cars for from 2013 to last year, right? We had the new era of
Yeah, I think it was 2014, but yeah.
So obviously you've got that time to develop your car in every season, like they work on their cars. This is still very new. So I
Mm.
think I don't know, I just think the cards are currently stacked against him, but I do think he is a good driver, and I think if he were given the right opportunity at the right team, like I remember when it was announced that Vettel was leaving and we were kind of like figuring out who would be going to Ferrari,
We're going to
there was
talk about that next, by the way. Oh, no, okay. But leaving a
well, yeah.
different, yeah, leaving
No, I
Ferrari.
was gonna say there were questions about who's going to take that seat at Ferrari, and so many people saying it should be Danny's because he's, that's like a good step for him.
Mm.
Obviously, he ended up at McLaren, and Carlos took that seat at Ferrari, but it's just I feel like there's been a lot that's been promised, and the teams haven't delivered. Obviously, an element of it is the driver themselves, but not all of it. So I'm kind of like, I
Mm.
don't want to bash Daniel too much because I kind of rediscovered that actually he's a bloody good driver and he does deserve his place in F1. I just think he's just not had the best luck. Like even with Renault when he was there, like they weren't doing that great, and then he left and moved to McLaren, and then all of a sudden they were like winning podiums and like scoring really good points. So I just think his luck just hasn't really been that
I
great.
think sometimes also you make your own luck. Like I agree with you to an extent. I don't think Daniel Ricciardo woke up one day and became a bad driver. I don't think that's what it is. Like I used to really like Daniel Ricciardo. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, my opinion of him, my kind of respect dipped for him a little bit when he said that he doesn't pay any attention to the news and what's racism, blah, 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 like all that kind of shit. Like I am the type of person, I've said this many times on this channel, I'm the type of person where what you do off the track affects my opinion of you on the track, and I can't separate the personal from just the driver.
Totally fair.
However, taking his driving into account, like yes, he is still a capable driver, but maybe he just, I know he like works out and he works really hard, like you see him putting up his training videos with his trainers, and like when he goes to the desert and he kind of like trains himself there and he does all that kind of stuff, but is he doing what it takes, like spending that time with the engineers to make sure that he is well meshing well with the McLaren car? Like is he doing the extra mile that he would need to do in order to like get the car where it needs to be for himself? And I don't know, like I do follow him on socials, but I've not seen him say anything to that effect. Like whenever, for example, when everybody was like moaning at Lewis because he doesn't do anything like with the engineers, then actually you find out that actually he spends a lot of time with the engineers. He's often there till 1 a.m. He goes in the simulator, he does all of this extra hard work and stuff. And I haven't seen that side from Daniel. And I think unless you're willing to kind of put that kind of time and effort in, especially to something like this, where you're one of 20 people in the world that get this opportunity, like I don't know, I feel like you make your own luck. Like if you put the work in, it's going to come back to you, and if you make stupid choices, you win stupid prizes. Like
I think that's an interesting take because not everyone's going to post all their stuff all the time, right?
no,
Like,
I know, I that's why I said, that's why I'm kind of saying it with an air of like maybe he does, but we just don't see it.
yeah, yeah. I don't
But I
know.
don't get that impression.
I don't know. I see what you're saying. I don't know if I agree, but
That's okay.
yeah.
We're allowed to disagree. We'll see what happens though. It's not the end of the season, as you said, and silly season is underway, which we will talk about towards the end of this video. So maybe he stays at McLaren, maybe he goes somewhere else, maybe he leaves Formula One altogether, but I can't see that happening, to be honest. And I hope he does stay in it for another year. As you said, I think we're still in a very new era of the cars, and we'll see what happens. Ocon and Alonso had a decent race, bringing it back around to Hungary. But then they were screwed by the hard tires. So they ended up coming they ended up coming 8th and 9th. So I mean that's decent for Alpine, like nearly best of the rest, excluding Leclerc. I think that just, like you said, cements their position in the constructors. Bottas had a late DNF. He ended up pulling over to the side, and there was a virtual safety car, not a full safety car, because I think he was like near a runoff. So they managed to like get rid of his car, which was just unfortunate for him. Again, Ferrari and their crappy engines that they're supplying to everybody. Zhou was 13th, so he was okay. He had a bit of an okay-ish race. Not points this time, I'm afraid, but yeah, not too bad. And as we said, like Daniel Rick was a bit low. Kevin Magnussen was around there as well. Trying to think what else. Who else? Albon and Latifi. That was it.
And the Astons. They finished 10th and
the Astons.
Don't forget about them.
10th and 11th.
Yeah, lots going on. I think the one thing that I do just quickly want to say is no one really talks about Ocon. Like, no one really gives him the props that he deserves, but
yeah, definitely
another Mr. Consistency in the fact that he's always finishing in the points. You know, he's battling his teammate very hard, and given who his teammate is, I feel like all the attention always tends to go on to Alonso. But yeah, I just want to give a little shout out to my man Esteban Ocon, because he's actually doing really well this season, and I've said it so many times.
Yeah, I think we definitely give him his props, because he is just really good. Like, he's again a consistent driver. I think him and Lando are going to have some interesting battles when they get better cars. This is too hilarious.
Like,
that is so funny. No, I need to read this. I understand that without my agreement, I can't do an Australian accent, by the way, because if I could, I so would be doing this in an Australian accent. I understand that without my agreement, Alpine F1 have put out a press release late this afternoon that I am driving for them next year. This is wrong, and I have not signed a contract with Alpine for 2023. I will not be driving for Alpine next year. That is a big statement. He didn't just say, guys, like, you announced this too early. We haven't even had talks. He literally said, I will not be driving for them.
I'm just looking at my work group chat and wow. Sometimes I love working in this industry. This is insane. So basically, you know how Alonso didn't actually
tell Otmar?
Yeah, and now he's apparently ignoring his calls, and he's like on a yacht somewhere and just ignoring him. I said, I think when like the announcement came out, I said to the guys at work, I was like, I imagine they've just done whatever they can to just get out a statement and just be like, we don't need you. Because trust me, this is peak Otmar. And now Oscar's like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Oh my God.
But if you think about it, Otmar
Ricardo to Alpine.
Yeah, definitely now. Ricardo or Gasly. If Gasly is smart, he will break that freaking contract. I would prefer Gasly to go, to be honest.
Yeah, me too.
If he's smart, he, even though he just signed, he will pay whatever bonus they need, and yeah.
Gasly and Ocon together. Oh my God, I need to see it.
Exactly.
This is too much. I can't believe this has just happened.
But I feel like Otmar's just getting a taste of his own medicine, because I swear he literally did the exact same thing last year with Aston.
Who?
Otmar.
Oh, Otmar. Oh, yeah. Well, whatever. Anyway, where were we? Oh, yeah. News of the day. So, winners and losers of the day. I don't know what that was.
Compose ourselves. Compose.
Oh, all right, Paris. Give me your loser of the day.
My loser of the day. My loser of the day is actually going to have to be Alonso and Ocon's strategy team for leaving them out on hards. I feel like I've said it about Ferrari's strategy team too many times, so I'm not going to repeat that one this week. I'm going to go with somebody completely different, and I'm going to say Ocon and Alonso because I think they could have got better positions, like better than Lando Norris, for example, and possibly for Ocon even like better than Perez, but we'll see.
Okay. Who am I going to give mine to? I feel like let's not make it a really obvious one. Let's just give it to Bottas. Just because what was that? Like, just at the end of the race, you're kind of DNFing for it is what it is. Yeah. So Bottas gets my loser of the day. Winner of the day?
My winner of the day. I kind of want to I want to give it to Lewis, but I also would like to give it to somebody who is not Lewis for once because I feel like I've given it to him a few times this year. So I'm gonna again trying to be different. Trying to think who else did really really well, and the only other person I can think of is Russell. So
You're stealing
fine, I'll go with Lewis. Lewis, my boy, he put that, and I'm waiting for that top spot of the podium. He put that on number 2. It's coming. Second half of the season, he cannot go a year in F1 without a win.
Definitely, he needs to get that.
What about
you? Yeah, I'm just gonna say Russell. He's like my winner of the weekend, just because that quali, that time, that lap, sensation. And then to just do what he needed to do for the team, bring home the 3rd spot on the podium. Like, the kid's good. There was a battle with him and
Charles, I think it was.
Watched it earlier. Yeah, I think it was Charles.
Yeah.
He's a good driver. I mean, he knows what he's doing. So yeah, my winner of the weekend goes to Russell.
I agree. And I think he was very sportsmanlike as well. Like, it wasn't quite team orders when Lewis overtook him. Like, they did race. I wouldn't say race, but they went for a few corners a little bit longer than maybe what they would have done if it was team orders. And I think he took it on the chin like a champ.
Yeah, you can tell that Russell's really in this for the team, not for himself, which I love. I just love. I feel like that's so refreshing to see because you do get you come into this kind of thing. Like, for example, if I look back at Charles when he first joined Ferrari, he was all about battling Seb and just trying to prove that it's his race and whatever. But George has come into this top tier team and he's like, I'm not here for myself, I'm here for the team. And then I mean, I love to see it. So
I agree. So yeah, I think that's our last winners and losers of the first half of the season. We've had a lot. I think I might do a little roundup of all who our winner and losers have been. I'm gonna have a look at that. But what we have now entered is the summer break and a bit of silly season, which has already begun.
Where do we even start with this? So, first of all, you get Seb signing up to Instagram out of nowhere. So then everyone's like, oh, he's retiring. And then people are like, just because he's like made an Instagram account doesn't mean that he's retiring. And then like several hours later, he announces his retirement in a really sweet way, can I just say? I thought it was such a cute video.
Did you ever look like he was being held hostage?
I mean, Seb's like that in general. Have you seen any of the videos that?
Yeah, I know, but it was just so like he walks over to this.
It was so solemn. Yeah.
I am retiring from Formula One.
Why do you sound like the Terminator?
That's my Austrian German accent.
Okay, Arnie. Um, yeah, no. So I get what you mean. It was a bit like he was in a bit of a hostage situation, but I thought it was a cute video, like what he was saying. The
Yeah,
sentiments behind it were sweet.
it was.
Um, so yeah, he announced his retirement, and then a few days later, you get Aston signing. I don't even want to say it. I was so heartbroken.
Marion messages me at like 9 o'clock in the morning and she's like, fuck, oh my God. And I'm like, oh shit, what happened? I don't know what happened. Like in my head, my mind went to like a billion different things. And I'm like, oh shit, what's going on? What's going on? She's like, the worst news ever. And I'm like, what's going on? Tell me, tell me, tell me. Because at that point, like, I don't necessarily always look at Twitter first thing in the morning, although it is pretty much my news cycle. So yeah, literally, like, I had no idea what was happening, and then she messages and she tells me, and I was like, yeah, thanks for ruining my morning, basically.
I mean, my morning was also ruined.
Yeah.
My entire day was ruined. So yeah, you had that bloody announcement, which I don't even want to give any attention to because I'm just actually gutted.
Yeah, I think for you, it's a personal thing. Like you have a soft spot for Aston. Vettel, like, was your one of your favorite drivers, your favorite driver. For me, I just think Alonso doesn't deserve any happiness, and he just deserves to
Wow.
like lay in the bed that he's made. And the current bed that he's made is Alpine. So stay there. You've come back to Formula One not to win championships. You've come back to troll everybody, to get on the FIA's nerves, to like harp on about everybody getting on to you about track limits and all this kind of stuff, like to impede Hamilton at every chance you get, to battle Ocon, to do DRS trains, and to sometimes perform a little bit well. You have not come back to win championships. Therefore, you do not deserve to go to any other team other than whichever stupid team brought you back into Formula One in the first place. That is my opinion.
He's chasing the bag though, evidently. And for some reason, people seem to like Alonso. I don't know why, but he obviously comes with a lot of money. So, you know,
I get it because he was a very good driver. As I have said many times, he was my favorite driver when I was like 15. I learned better. I did, but not because he's a bad driver, but because, as I said earlier in this video, I have an issue with people who have bad nature off track. And when he joined McLaren and everybody was like being racist towards Lewis, as a black person, I could not sit by and watch and just endure that. So yeah, Alonso was a very good driver, is still a somewhat good driver, which is why I think fine be in Formula One, but I just don't think he needs to go to a team. Like, Aston need a young driver that's going to like work with them and grow with them, and Stroll's just not quite good enough to do that.
I don't even want to comment on Stroll, to be honest, just because it's his dad's team. Like, we're not gonna get rid of him. There's like he's staying in the sport. There's no point in even like speculating about the future of his career. He's gonna be there for as long as he can until his dad is like, do you know what? Actually, you're not really doing anything for me, so I'm gonna get rid of you or sell the team. I don't know.
He has a perpetual contract. I don't think it even has an end date on it when you look at it. Does he even have a contract? I wonder.
Of course he does, but yeah. I don't know. I just think it, like I've said so many times before, Aston are obviously playing a long game in terms of their strategy and what they want to achieve within the sport. I don't know if Alonso's the right driver to bring them that success.
No.
And that duo together, I find it's going to be a really interesting dynamic. But
yeah,
it is what it is.
No more cute Aston videos, I'll tell you that. It's going to be weird as hell. Good luck marketing team having to get shit out of them next year.
On that because it's hard enough as it is, so whatever. Anyway,
so yeah, okay, so we got the domino, we got the chessboard. Vettel moves off the chessboard, Alonso moves into his position, and then that creates a space at Alpine. And that has yet to be filled, as we have just learned.
Literally. So this morning, Alpine, or this afternoon, Alpine put out a statement saying Piastri is stepping up from F2 into F1. It's this like the driver that everyone was saying is going to take that seat anyway. And then Paris and I just needed to just do a bit of a reshuffle thing. And we've both just seen that Piastri's put out a statement to be like, hell no. You've put out that statement without me agreeing to anything. I'm not racing for this next year. I'm done. Which I think is a bit of a, like, it's very like, this is not happening, which I'm a bit like, maybe you should have been a bit softer about it, because have you just kind of made your own bed by being like, I ain't going to that team, when you could have probably negotiated that contract and actually been like, guys, I know you put out this statement, but I'm only joining if XYZ, rather than just jumping straight online and being like,
this is definitely a Gen Z thing to do.
Yeah. So yeah, that leaves that seat open.
Which leaves, who do you think could fill it?
I want it to go to Gasly, just because Gasly and Ocon together in a team that is scoring points. I just need to see it, because I'm a big fan of both of them. I think now that Vettel's gone, like, obviously my alliance is with Mercedes and the Mercedes boys, but then also aside from them two, it is Gasly and Ocon. And I just think to have them two in the same team, I'd be very happy. And Gasly,
I want it to go to Gasly, but
he deserves.
I think he needs to call them up and get out of that Alpine contract somehow. And I think, no, sorry, that AlphaTauri contract. Red Bull have him by the balls.
Whoever Gasly's manager is needs to bloody do a good job. And actually, do you know what? Get me that job right now. I'll go negotiate these terms, because Gasly needs out of AlphaTauri, out of that whole Red Bull conglomerate situation. They're like the Illuminati, honestly.
I think what probably happened, because Gasly signed his AlphaTauri contract maybe about a month ago, and I don't know who would have told him to do that, but perhaps he thought that whatever seat opens up, it will be filled immediately by like a junior. So, for example, this seat, we automatically thought Piastri was going to fill it. If there was a seat at Aston, I'm sure a lot of people thought like, what's his name? What's the Mercedes junior driver called? I can't think of his name.
Nick De Vries.
Yeah, De Vries would fill it, or do you know what I mean? Like, there's an abundance of talent trying to burst through, and there actually wasn't that many seats going this year. As much as there's a few contracts that haven't been signed for 2023, sorry. I'm thinking like Mick Schumacher. I think Magnussen has a 2-year deal, but Mick Schumacher might only have a 1 year or something like that. So there's a few seats that could be up for grabs, but they're in lesser teams, you know, like it's not teams that he might necessarily want to move to. The only one I can maybe think of is like Alfa Romeo, like going where in Zhou's seat, but Zhou's actually been performing quite well, and I think that they will renew his contracts for next year. So realistically, Gasly's manager was probably thinking, where could he move if any seats opened up? Would he want to move to some of those teams? And I don't think people were necessarily expecting Vettel to leave.
Yeah. I don't know. There are still quite a few seats. I think the Williams team.
Yeah, but would he really want to move to Williams? They've been at the back of the grid for like how many years?
Yeah, but I don't know. I keep saying the long game about all these teams, but I need to kind of get over that, don't I?
Yeah, people want Gasly's definitely somebody who wants a win like now. He's been due. He's got a couple of wins, but he's been due like more.
I think it makes sense for Gasly to move to Alpine. Who would take that seat at AlphaTauri then?
I don't know, but I'm interested in seeing if Tsunoda manages to keep his seat this year, as much as I love him and I think he deserves all of the chances in the
I
world.
want to say, I don't know if I mean, obviously, all of the drivers come with money, but I feel like Zhou and Tsunoda specifically
Mhm.
do come with a fair bit of money with them. So
Yeah,
don't,
Tsunoda's like got like the whole Honda
yeah,
Japanese money thing, plus they're like AlphaTauri Honda. I mean
yeah,
Red Bull Honda, blah 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 blah. And then I think Zhou is literally like the Chinese national driver for Formula One, so he's backed by literally the
yeah,
entire country.
yeah. He's not going anywhere, and I don't think Tsunoda's going to go anywhere either. To be honest, I do think I don't know about Latifi. I don't know if Latifi's going to be here next year.
Yeah, I doubt it.
Albon, I think, will keep his seat. He's doing all right.
Hmm.
Um, there's been speculation about Ricardo moving.
Even though he has a contract
Ooh.
until the end of next year, but as Zach Brown said, there are clauses that means that they could end that contract early on both sides, I think.
Oh, I don't know. It's too confusing. Um, where could he go?
Gasly or Ricardo?
Ricardo.
That's why I said I think Ricardo should just stay at McLaren. Like realistically, where's he gonna go? And also, like you've started on this journey. I don't think he wants to be the type of
Yeah,
person who like goes to
jumps.
a team and jumps for a little bit.
Yeah,
Like the Renault stint was bullshit. Like if you're gonna put your heart into a team, do it
yeah.
properly. And that's what I was saying. Like he needs to give them himself.
Do you know what? Every time I think about Ricardo at Renault, I always automatically just picture Cyril Abiteboul's face in my head. And it makes me really sad because I loved
Mm,
Cyril so
yeah.
much. So yeah, I do think you're right. Ricardo's stint at Renault was bullshit. And yeah, he does need to kind of stick it out with McLaren now. But
Yeah. I think realistically, the only seats that are really up for grabs is the the Williams seat of Latifi and then the Alpine. That's it. Because like you said, like AlphaTauri, technically, I can't see Yuki like on merit staying for another year, but like you said, maybe with the financial backing, he might get another year out of his contract. I think if it was, he's not really been performing very well this year. Um, Gasly's already signed. Zhou is definitely probably going to sign with Alfa Romeo again, and Albon's going to sign, and then yeah, so just Latifi for Williams and Alpine. Mick Schumacher is a slightly unknown entity because we don't know where he's going to land, but I think once all these seats fill up, he'll just renew his contract at Haas for another year until all of like signs his contract ends next year at Ferrari, and then that will be an interesting one.
I don't think I see Mick going anywhere. I think you're right. Potentially, I think we could see Logan Sargent move up from F2 into Latifi's seat at Williams, who's already doing I think it's Williams. He's doing the test run for them in Texas.
Mm.
Not the test run, sorry, practice session. Which will then just leave the AlphaTauri seat if Gasly does move over to Alpine. Fingers crossed. So yeah, it's all kind of up in the air at the moment, but we'll just see how it develops over the next few weeks slash few days. But yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Definitely. I think this could be quite fun. A little shake up for after the season ends. And I really want to see what happens with all of this Oscar Piastri stuff because honestly, that shit is hilarious. But yeah, other than that, the next Grand Prix is going to be on the 27th and the 28th of August. It's the Belgian Grand Prix. Which is one of Max's home races. It is also kind of Lando's home race as well, but I don't think anyone ever mentions that because he is half Belgian. No, Lando. Lando's Belgian as well.
And Lance.
Is Lance Belgian? I thought Lance Strolovich. I thought he was like Russian or something.
Canadian Belgian.
Oh, okay. So we got three Belgian descendants running, but only one that two that kind of claim it a little bit. It's going to be an interesting race, I think.
Spa always is. Was it last year that we had the ridiculous 4 hour? Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
good luck.
I just hope it doesn't rain again because I don't have the patience for that shit.
Yeah, we'll see. I am not actually here for Spa, Zandvoort, or Monza. So you're gonna have to have fun watching these videos and listening without me. But I'm sure you'll do a great job.
It's going to be sad. We will miss you, but you will be doing fun endeavors. And I guess big-ish announcement, but I will be going to Monza this year. So instead of having a video that race, we will probably just have a mini vlog similar to what we do when we go to Silverstone. So this will be my first foreign race. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be super exciting, and I'm glad that I get to do that.
Yeah, I'm super excited to see the content that comes out of Monza. It's one of my favorite like tracks, I think, like mid-tier kind of track. So yeah, we've got lots of exciting stuff happening post summer breaks. But in the meantime, we will be very active on Twitter as we always are, and hopefully on Instagram. I mean, I've got a very busy few weeks coming up, but hopefully we'll be on there. So please do stay in touch throughout the next few quiet weeks, and we will catch you after the summer break.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.